Boneyards are often thought to signify the end of a machine's useful life, but just as often, they can create new and significant beginnings. September 11th, 2001. A stunning terrorist attack unlike anything the world had ever seen causes the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center to collapse, killing nearly 3,000 innocent victims. When completed in 1973, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center were the world's tallest and largest buildings. They were constructed without masonry, employing instead a rigid hollow tube of closely spaced steel columns with floor trusses extending across to a central core. The columns, finished with a silver-colored aluminum alloy, made the towers appear to have no windows at all. At the time, they were considered a miracle of innovative design. Now they were a heaping pile of wreckage over 10 stories high. Over 100,000 truckloads were hauled from Ground Zero to scrapyards in New Jersey and Staten Island. It added up to over 1.8 million tons, enough to fill several football stadiums. It included more than 350,000 tons of burnt and twisted steel, which had once been a landmark of the New York skyline. But today, 1,300 miles south in a foundry in Louisiana, some of this steel is being born again in a new symbol of the Big Apple. A new class of amphibious assault ships is under construction, one of which will be named the USS New York.
After the tragedy in New York in September 11th, 2001, it was natural that a ship would be named New York. Immediately, Northrop Grumman's senior leadership began working with the officials of the city of New York and the state of New York to obtain some of the World Trade Center steel that we could actually melt down and make as part of the ship.
20 tons of steel arrived at the Amite foundry in Louisiana to be melted down and cast.
Before we actually had the steel melted, it came in the manner in which it was dug out of Ground Zero. Much of it was mangled and twisted and burned.
Though this steel originates from a unique source, recycling old steel into new ships is a common practice.
We recycle 500 tons of steel per month, minimum. Can't produce enough steel castings at the point right now.
Casting steel into new shapes is an exacting and blistering process. It all begins with the meltdown.
We melt it down in the electric arc process, melt down to a temperature of approximately 2,820 degrees. We take chemical analysis samples at that point. We analyze the heat to make sure that the chemical requirements are within the defined specification. And then we start a process called oxidation, which eliminates undesired materials such as hydrogen and nitrogen.
At this time, as per customers' requirements, various alloys may be added to the molten steel. As the molten steel in the furnace is nearing a temperature of 3,000 degrees, before pouring, a final sample is tested to verify that all the elements are in the proper range. When all is ready, the furnace is slowly tilted and the molten steel pours into the ladle. When it's filled, bags of rice husks are thrown in to insulate against loss of surface heat while the ladle is being moved.
The crane operator takes it from the pit to the mold. We run it on a spectrograph to make sure the metal is within the spec.
When the required pouring temperature of approximately 2,820 degrees is verified, the pour begins. Yet even with all this painstaking analysis and testing, to ensure strength and durability, the pour itself must occur in a very short time. The steel is poured into vast molds that form sections of the vessel. In this case, the World Trade Center steel is being formed into a very special part of the ship.
It's going to be used on the nose of the ship where it pushes through the water, where it shows that it's leading the west.
So wherever this ship goes throughout its life, that steel will be always visible at the very forefront of the ship.
After allowing approximately 4 days to cool, the casting is removed from the mold. The risers must now be cut away from the casting by the burners. The chippers then go to work with power chisels to further remove the excess steel on the casting. The grinders then do all the finish work to bring the piece to final specifications. The whole process from start to finish takes 4 to 6 weeks. The complexity of the new bow piece for the USS New York took much longer. But now, it's ready to be mounted. Though she is part of a long line of ships to have begun their journeys here, the New York is special. She will be remembered not only for the unique source of her steel, but for the pride she instilled in the workers who poured their sweat into her construction.
The employees at the foundry were very excited. We had all the dignitaries in. I think the pride, just knowing they'd been picked, that you were going to get to do something for the country. You know, we felt like, you know, they came over here and destroyed a building and killed lots of people, and we're helping take the remains of that, turn it into something that can protect the country.
We made a part for a ship that when you see it coming through the waters, the first thing you see is that stem. And it's just an exciting adventure for us.
I have great pride in being associated with the LPD-17 program for all the famous cities that these ships are named after, especially the New York, knowing that they will have a significant place in history long after I have passed off the shipbuilding scene.